welcome back to the Wild Rose podcast. I'm Whitney Rose.
I'm Connie Daniels.
So we had the opportunity to do something so fun. I think it was probably like a monument in our podcasting career. We were actually invited as guests on another podcast together.
Yes, it was so fun.
Yeah, so we actually went on the Mr. Mr. podcast who, just to give a little context, I met Trey through Stephanie Holman and Brandy from Dallas. They do their podcast, The Weekly Dose of BS, and he was on their podcast. I met him on there, and there was just like an instant connection, and turns out he's a fan of the Wild Rose podcast and invited us to come on his podcast with his fiance. They're planning a gay wedding and bringing everyone along for the ride of planning the wedding. And they also own a gay bar in Texas, Mr. Mister.
Yeah, they are darling. They were so fun, and they're going over the top for their wedding. So they're really fun to talk with, and we just had the funnest time we wanted to share on our podcast.
We thought you would all love it as much as we did. So we're actually going to share them as our guests today, Trey and Zach from the Mr. Mister podcast. But before we do that, in true Wild Rose fashion, what is the wildest thing that happened to you this week?
Wildest thing. Well, it wasn't too wild. It could have got really wild, but we checked out
Tell me more.
It was one of our friends' birthday. His name is Pang. He's actually the one that I went on Below Deck with, and he had like one night off during tax season on his birthday. So we're like, what should we do? We went and checked out that new hotel downtown. It's actually a Marriott hotel called Le Méridien. Okay, you guys, Utah's coming up in the world.
I know.
It had the coolest rooftop bar with like big fire pits, overlooked the whole valley and like the mountains. It was beautiful. They did such a good job. It's a pretty small hotel, really, for a Marriott hotel, but it has a restaurant, and then it has a bar up on the roof they have some food and stuff and really fun cocktails and everything. So it was fun to check it out.
So I actually got to go there during the NBA All-Star weekend.
Oh.
That was the official hotel for the NBA All-Stars. It's where all the athletes stayed, the celebrities.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it was
day late, a dollar short over
and
here.
Across the street, this is how you know Utah's becoming on the map. We're getting an STK.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Across the street at the Charles.
Yes, and that's another hotel that's it's not connected, but it's right next to it, right? Yeah. Yep, Utah's coming on up in this world. That's fun.
My wildest thing, it actually has to do with my kids. I took them skiing yesterday, and when I tell you Bobby is a mini-me, like, it is insane. She is fearless. Like, she has like zero fear on skis. Like,
That's
she
awesome.
gets off the lift and just goes like crazy fast, in and out of trees, on and off jumps.
Okay, does it freak you out?
Yeah, it freaks me out. But it's weird though, because I actually trust her more. It's scarier to watch Brooks. He's a great skier. Buddy, this is no shame to you. He's just a little more timid, and a timid skier is a little bit scarier.
Yeah,
especially
you're more prone
when
to
we're
get
like
in an accident.
going on cat tracks and there's a cliff,
Yeah.
or something that they could fall off of. I panic way more for Brooks. For Bobby, I'm just like, well, she's in control. But after watching her do this, I'm like, okay, maybe we need to pull in the reins a little bit. So I'm on the ski lift. We let the kids go by themselves, and I was with Justin and another friend, and I look down, and we're going over the park. The park is where they have like the tabletop jumps, the rails, the ramps, like the expert stuff, the people who do tricks. I see a little turquoise coat, turquoise helmet, and I'm like, there's no way that's Bobby. And I look down, Bobby is going through the freaking park.
Oh.
Like, she was flying through the air off of a tabletop, cleared the gap, landed on the other one. Then she's going off jumps, and I saw her standing and staring at a rail, and I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. Or I'm like, but then I'm kind of like, do it. Are you going to do it? So I'm sitting on the ski lift. She actually went, and she just went over it. Like, she touched it which I was so proud because that's how you safely learn how to do it.
Yeah.
So I catch back up with her and I'm like, did you go through the park? And she's like, yeah, I've been doing that for 2 years.
Oh.
I'm like, what?
My gosh. She's way better than I am.
Yeah, so I have footage of it. So this time we caught up on the lift, went down and filmed her going through this park. I mean, with adults, like big kids. And there's my little girl, my little redhead, just fearless flying over tabletops.
That is wild when you see your kid all of a sudden like blowing past like other skiers and doing tricks.
To put it into perspective, a tabletop is minimum 15 feet high. Like, I don't know. It's probably 2 or 3 of me. Uh-huh. And if you have to time it right so that you hit it to clear the next one.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to get enough speed and air. Otherwise, if you don't, you'll crash and have a really bad landing.
Yeah. Dang.
I know.
Go Bobby.
So my wildest moment was living vicariously through my daughter, but it was pretty fun.
That's fun.
But anyways, when we
scary.
I know, definitely. Yeah. I don't know. I'm really proud of her, but it's also really scary.
For sure.
Yeah. But when we get back from the break, we have Zach and Trey from the Mr. podcast. Connie, life has gotten so busy. Sometimes I miss the simpler days when I actually had time to go to the grocery store. I don't even have time anymore.
I know the feeling for sure. But you know what's even more annoying? When you go to the grocery store and you start grabbing things that you don't even need, that aren't on your list because you see them, and so much food goes to waste.
HelloFresh takes the hassle out of mealtime this spring by delivering pre-proportioned ingredients and easy-to-prepare recipes right to your door. Skip the checkout lines and go outside in the warmer weather because HelloFresh has dinner covered.
Good food is too precious to waste. HelloFresh's pre-portioned ingredients cut down on your food waste by at least 23% compared to grocery shopping, which is good for your wallet and for the planet.
23% is huge.
It is.
I love HelloFresh because, like I said, I'm so busy and it's really important for my family to still spend quality time together. That's a tradition we have, is to eat dinner together every night. So HelloFresh is amazing because it ships right to my door, sends me everything that I need, and I can make a healthy meal very quickly. And I love knowing that my kids, as they're growing, are getting healthy, nutritious meals.
I think it's super important to have family mealtime because some days that's the only time you get together.
It seriously is. And that's the time we spend to get to know what's going on in our kids' lives. And we like to cook together. So it just takes the stress out of dinner time.
And it's healthy. It's so good. We rarely have any leftovers at our house. I don't know about you guys.
I love the variety too. Like you said, they're yummy, they're nutritious, and there's a huge selection of food. Go to HelloFresh.com/WildRose50 and use code WildRose50 for 50% off. Plus, your first box ships free.
That's HelloFresh.com/WildRose50 and use code WildRose50 for 50% off. Plus, your first box ships for free.
HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
So I just got a hot tip from our producer. So obviously we are planning our first gay wedding. This is both of our first marriages, but I've heard that between the two of you, you have 5 marriages. So I feel like y'all are wedding experts.
Who told you that?
Our producer.
Yeah, it is true.
Okay, so I need to get y'all's like best marriage advice. Like what are like the top 3 things you feel like are just like expert pieces of knowledge that everyone getting married needs to know?
Ooh, I have one word: compromise.
Ooh.
Yes.
Compromise.
That is a very good one. Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's where you run into the most issues is like, you know, you're 2 individuals coming in to merge your lives together, merge your worlds together. And you don't want to turn into the same person, right? So it's like you're always going to have, not always, you're going to agree on a lot of things, but then there's always going to be some things you don't agree on. So I think compromising is like a way to keep you from a lot of big fights.
How do you determine though when to compromise? Like when do you say like, no, I'm really sticking to this one, or we can find a medium?
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we all know like when we can give and when we can't, right? I think we all know when we're digging our heels in the ground over something maybe that isn't that big of a deal in the long run. Maybe it's just heightened in the moment. If it's not going against like your core values in your relationship, then maybe it's a good time to compromise. Um, for like as an example, like we love to use the sock on the floor analogy where your husband leaves the socks on the floor and you've asked him like 27 times, please don't leave your socks on the floor. And you have a conversation about it. And then 2 days later, you see the socks on the floor, right? And you're like, wait, I asked you to not leave the socks on the floor. You're not hearing me. You don't respect me. You're not listening to me. Like, I should just move out of the house now. That's a compromise, right? Like, you have to, in my experience, like allow each other to be individuals. And those are the things that I compromise on, those little things, even though the goddamn socks make me want to throw them at his head,
Whitney, I feel like you should be a relationship expert because on Real Housewives, that is just one big maze of navigating relationships, really. So what do you feel like is something good to bring into a relationship to start out on the right note? Is it like vulnerability? Is it?
Yeah, you have to stay open. So vulnerability, sensitivity, like you have to be open and understand that every human being, like I know Connie so well, I know my husband so well, but still I don't know what's inside of their brain. I don't know what set of experiences they're bringing to that situation. I think that staying open and trying to really, when you listen to someone, actively listen to them. Because again, it's not always about like what we think it is about.
Yeah, I was listening to one of your podcasts recently where y'all were talking about, you were talking to your kids and asking them, are we good parents or are we not? And it was
so good.
It was good. And I think it was Brooks or it may have been Bobby said, they were like, I just really like when you tell me something, but then you listen to my response and you hear where I'm at and you whether you take me to dinner or you hear what I'm thinking. Cause just like you said, Whitney, we don't know what's going on in the other person's head. So it really is that open conversation to really understand each other. And, that's how you even get to those compromises. You can't compromise what you don't know the other person has those angst about and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And like when you stay open to receiving information, you can understand and kind of more easily like interpret what they're trying to say. Like a good example is the other day, Justin and I were like giving each other a cold shoulder, like, ugh. Like when we fight, it's not like words and yelling. It's like ice each other out, cold shoulder, like make your presence known, but don't say anything kind of a thing. Like we're like two poodles. And he got mad at me for something so simple. And then as I was like, wait, what's going on? And as he started talking, I was like, oh, you're not mad that I didn't acknowledge you. You're mad that I forgot to pay the bill the other day. And you're just taking it out on me right now.
See, Zach and I are very different in that way. And that like, I will give him the cold shoulder and he loves the silence. And I'm like, wait, no, I'm actually going to ramp this up to annoy you more to prove my point. So I've had to find how to annoy him differently.
I think Connie's the same way. She's like, you like welcome the quiet, right?
Yeah, because I need time to process anyway. So
Exactly.
I'm like, thank you. Like, let's be quiet for a minute.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I'm like, give me 10 minutes and I'll be over it. I just need to think through it. And Trey, those are the longest 10 minutes of his life.
And I've gotten so much more mad.
He does not like when I don't address it. And I'm like, I'm getting there. Just let me process what I'm feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you guys been together?
I mean, at this point, I think we're at almost 3 years now. Or, well, not together. We've been friends for almost 3 years now. And then we were dating for 6 months or so and then got engaged back in August. So together, probably right around the year mark or so. Maybe a little bit longer.
So Whitney, I actually used you as a pawn for my engagement because I knew where I wanted to propose to Zach, and that was in New York City. And I think it was maybe a month earlier, Deandra, who used to be on Real Housewives of Dallas, was in LaGuardia talking real loud to someone on the phone at Bravo, and it was in all these different magazines. And so I had planned this engagement where I was having Stephanie and Brandy come in and a bunch of our family and friends, and I was like, I do not want someone to see them in the airport and then Zach be like, well, that's weird. Why wouldn't you have known they were coming here and said something? So I told him that Stephanie and Brandy were coming to be a guest on Watch What Happens Live. And he was like, oh, well, do they like announce that? And I was like, no, they're a surprise guest. Whitney's actually the guest because he knows that you and Stephanie share the same manager. And so that was my whole play, is he thought the whole time we were in New York was to come be in the audience for when you were on Watch What Happens Live, which was not even, I don't think the show was even taping then.
No way.
And then,
seriously?
Yeah, so you were a pawn, you didn't even know it. I know, because I was like, he can't even look that up. He can't fact check this because he's so the type that would.
I think I said I do, and then I think I said, so are we still going to Watch What Happens Live, or are we not?
I know, I think he was a little upset that we weren't actually doing that, but he got a ring.
But
it all worked out.
That's clever.
That is so
like
clever.
That.
It was good.
I have a question though. So you were friends before, and congratulations on the engagement.
Thank you.
I mean, I wish we did Watch What Happens Live because then I could have been there.
Exactly.
But you were friends before. So at what moment did you know that it was like, okay, we want to take our friendship to the next level?
I mean, I've always said whoever I marry, I want to be friends with first because I don't want to let some random man in my house. So I actually have this like life coach and psychic who told me forever. She kind of just like kept describing Zach to me. And so it like crossed my mind, and then she was meeting with Zach and was kind of telling him something very similar. And we were both just like, yeah, I don't think like that's in our path. And then one day it just like clicked. And I was like, wow, we're really good friends and we really get along. And I really like the way you think and the way you do life. And I enjoy hanging out with you. And then we were like, well, I think he kind of moved and never left.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say, I mean, I know when I decided, but I don't know what changed. I just woke up one morning and was like, oh, yeah, let's give this a try, you know? And it's funny because actually about a year and a half prior to that, we did attempt dating. We went on one date, and that was like right as COVID started. And then I ghosted him because I was like, no, I'm not ready for a relationship.
Biggest mistake of his life.
I just wasn't ready yet, but we ended up becoming really good friends throughout that year. And I'm so thankful that we did, because that really got us to know each other a lot better and made the relationship, once we got to that point, so easy.
Yeah.
I love that you guys were friends first.
Have either of y'all been to a gay wedding?
No, but I was at a marriage proposal in Punta de Mita with a couple that we met there. They were so cute. They did this whole thing where they had like the ring dropped in by a drone.
What?
And it was like it was at the W in Punta de Mita. And it was so beautiful. And yeah, we met this couple and they just got engaged, and they had the whole video. It was so cute.
Wait, they dropped the ring from a drone? My anxiety.
It didn't drop it. I think it was on a string, or somehow they lowered it from the drone, or they maybe brought the drone down to them. I don't know.
Yeah, just but I'm with Trey. Like the anxiety of something going wrong. Like, what if the drone just decided to
went rogue?
Went rogue. The ring is gone.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it could. That'd be a very interesting story.
That is crazy. Wow.
Yeah, but I haven't been to a gay wedding.
Do you know what between Connie and I, we have so many gay friends. Yeah. But I have not been to a gay wedding.
I know. That's actually bizarre.
We're about to. Our friends Jessica and Allie are engaged. Mm-hmm. I don't know where they're doing their wedding, but I think most of my gay friends, they've already been married when I met them, or they're just all sluts. Not getting married anytime soon.
You know what? There are two different pots you fit into, and you nail on the head right there.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been to one gay wedding that I can think of off the top of my head, and that was probably 6-7 years ago now. It was super low key, but I'm excited because, everybody says gay weddings are way more fun than regular weddings. So I'm excited to see what the production's going to be.
Well, I have a feeling yours is not going to be low key.
No, not at all.
The furthest thing from it. We got a piece of advice from a wedding planner very early on, and she was like, usually you expect about 70% of the guests you invite to come to your wedding, but with a gay wedding, you need to anticipate about 110% are going to come. And we have had a situation where we've had to uninvite people. And then I'm also like, wow, the pressure of y'all really think this is going to be like a Beyonce concert. And I mean, it might be, but I'm like, wow, okay, we really got to bring this.
Yeah.
I fully expect Beyonce to be front row.
So does Zach.
So do I. I have been.
She's the flower girl.
Absolutely.
Wait, did you have to uninvite people?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, how did that go?
Well, so our resort actually sold
How
out.
do you do that? Oh.
So it was an indirect uninvitation because where all the rooms are gone and you can't come if you're not there. So it's like, well, we've been telling you for a couple months now to book your room, and so you kind of chose yourself.
I was going to say, what was the criteria to get uninvited? It was like, you haven't liked my post in the last 30 days. What is the
If you didn't RSVP, if you haven't acknowledged, if I haven't heard from you, you don't have a room, you're kind of out. So, which is a great feeling to have, though, too. It's like there are so many people that are, because I think, just looking back, coming out is such a scary moment. You're like, is anyone going to accept me? So to have so many of our friends and family come together for a wedding is just really exciting.
So what has that process been like? How did you got engaged? How did you come up with where you wanted to get married, the reception, all of that? Walk us through the process.
I started before I asked Zach to marry me. I started doing wedding tours in Mexico, and I was like, I know I want to marry him. I know I want it to be in Mexico, so I'll just get the hard part out of the way. And then I kind of filled him in later on after I proposed, and I was like, here's where I think we should do it. And it was in a city that he had never been to before. But it's been really fun trying to figure out kind of what traditions we want to adhere to, what we want to make our own. We don't have bridesmaids and groomsmen, so it's what do we have? Because there's not a bride, so we just have a wedding party. And I have girls and guys on my side. He has girls and guys on his side. We're going to have both of our parents walk us down the aisle. That was probably our biggest holdup was how do we get from point A to point B? And so just making those little decisions that you don't really think about until you're kind of forced to think about them. You're like, oh, okay. But it's been nice because we can kind of, having been to so many weddings over the past, 12, 16 months, just all that kind of that COVID rush or post-COVID rush, we can go to other people's weddings and say that, yeah, we are definitely not doing that. But we did like that. So it's been kind of a fun little scrapbook.
What has been the number one thing with all these weddings you've gone through? What's been the cringiest thing you've seen?
People taking 2-3 hours to take photos between the ceremony and the reception. Oh my, I am not going to put my guests through that sitting there because one, they will get wasted. They will absolutely be wasted before I step foot on the dance floor. And two, it's just it's a long drawn out process. We're going to make it quick and easy. Plus, I'd much rather have candid photos than posy staged photos,
Posed. Yeah. I think for one of my weddings, I did all of the photos before.
Yes, yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So you do all of your family photos, groom's photos before. I'm trying to think of what would we say? Hubby and hubby photos, groom's photos.
Yes, exactly.
What are you officially calling yourselves? Not bride and groom. So grooms?
Mr. and Mr. I guess.
Mr. and
I don't know.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
Whitney, read the name of the podcast.
I don't think we've actually gotten that far yet, but yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we have an answer now.
What were some of the favorite aspects that y'all incorporated in your weddings?
Do you want to go first?
You go first.
Okay. Well, my first wedding and my second wedding was to the same man. So the first wedding was a big Mormon wedding, and it wasn't really that fun at all.
Why was it not fun?
Because it was really dry.
Mormon.
Very Mormon.
in all senses of dry. No alcohol. There was a car bar out in the parking lot.
What is that?
Because my husband's family, my husband was a convert to the church, and at the time I was really Mormon. And so a car bar means that everyone would just leave, go out to their car, get a drink, and then come back in without it.
Oh.
So they'd just be getting drunk in the parking lot. And I remember I was 20 years old. Like, I was so mad. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are getting drunk in the parking lot. And then now that I've gone through a lot of change in my life and grown a lot, and I'm actually not really Mormon anymore. So now I'm like, looking at my younger self going, oh my gosh, you were just too young to even get married. What were you doing?
So was your second wedding to that same guy, was it still a Mormon wedding or was it much more fun?
No. By this time, we had done a 180. We owned a nightclub. We went
yes.
off the rails. So we kind of came full circle, and after a divorce, and kind of created some balance in our life. So the second wedding was we went to Mexico, actually. We got married in Mexico.
Fun.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. I loved being on the beach, and just it was so easy. I mean, for us, we didn't go to the lengths you guys did because it was our second marriage to each other. So we showed up and we had the wedding planner, and she just said, which flowers do you want? You know, she gave me a few options, and I just picked them, and we were with I don't know, maybe 15, 20 of our friends and family, and that was it.
I love
Very
it.
And
nice.
our kids were at that one, which was really cute.
Oh,
Really
yeah.
fun.
That is cute.
Yeah.
What about you, Whitney?
Well, the first wedding was with the wrong man. So that's number one. The second wedding was with the right man. And the third. But I'm counting the vow renewal as a wedding, by the way.
Yes.
Okay. From my first wedding, though, I'm trying to think of something positive. I had over the top florals.
Ooh.
It was the garden barfed on my wedding, and I loved it. I loved the vibe of the florals. My first wedding was very Mormon as well. In fact, in the Mormon culture, you do what's the dinner? The wedding rehearsal. And you don't do a wedding rehearsal because you get married in the temple. So it's the rehearsal dinner, but there's no rehearsal of the wedding. It's really weird.
It's just a dinner.
But my rehearsal dinner was bigger than my actual wedding.
Oh, wow.
Reception.
Why?
So we had 600, 700 people.
What?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Whoa.
Wait.
was the whole
my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. I had about 700 people at my rehearsal dinner.
No.
Yes.
Where did
when
you
I
fit
tell
them?
You, what?
What kind of venue were you in?
Oh, there's in Utah, because this is the Utah Mormon way. You invite everyone you go to church with. You invite all of your relatives. And my first husband, he was a predominant figure in the community here, and so was I. So it was the royal wedding of Alpine, Utah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So did you do it at the church house?
No, I did it at Noah Center.
Oh.
Because I refused to be that bitch that got married in the culture hall. I was not having I was not having I told my in-laws at the time, I'm like, well, you can invite all of these people, but I'm not doing it at the church. There's event centers all over Utah that cater to this because it's really common.
Oh my goodness.
So-
Okay, then what would you say the average budget is for a Mormon wedding?
Well, there's no alcohol. Everyone donates the food.
Oh.
So it's
depending on where you got married.
I think we're evolved now. Probably, what do you think, 30K?
Yeah, I think my first wedding was about 25,000, but it was and we did it at a venue. We didn't do it at a church. But this is 23 years ago.
Yeah, mine was
Probably
over
changed.
15 years ago.
When you said feeding 600 people, my first thought is $85 a plate. I want to throw up.
Yeah. So good news is there's no alcohol, so that cuts the ticket in
That is
half.
also the bad news.
Yeah, I'm maybe
Yeah.
good news back then for you, but not anymore.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know, but
So when you say donate the food, you mean a potluck?
Yeah,
Basically?
that's very common.
Is that what they did?
I didn't have a potluck. We had a plated, like, I think you could get steak or chicken or something. I don't remember. And then my wedding reception, the next day you go to the temple. Only temple holder recommends can go in, and then you come out and have a reception. And that's more like bite-size light eats.
So it's not like a party reception. Like,
No.
So you're saying the party is the rehearsal, basically.
Yeah, but
Gotcha.
Justin and I's first wedding, we only had 50 people. We got married at Sundance. Well,
It's a ski resort.
yeah, Sundance Ski Resort. But wait, fun fact about my first wedding. My dad, being the gem that he is, ditched out on the bill. And so Justin actually paid for my first wedding.
Really?
Yes. My dad never paid the wedding, the reception hall.
Really?
And it went to collections. And then I started getting these letters and phone calls. And I had no idea what it was for. And it was like a year and a half, 2 years later. And so my now husband, Justin, we were dating at the time, had to pay for the first wedding.
Your wedding
Wow.
went to collections.
Wait,
wow.
My wedding
Justin
went to
paid-
collections because my dad never paid the bill of the
So wait,
reception center.
Justin paid for your first wedding to the other person.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. Oh,
That's.
That
I think that takes us back to compromise from the
Yeah.
beginning.
oh my goodness, that wow.
Yeah, so that's a whole story there. But my dad, he's a real sweetie pie, and just left me, like, just stiffed me, like, just took off, disappeared. At that time, I didn't talk to him for 3 years, so he just took off, didn't pay for anything. So, I was working at the time. I had paid for my own dress. I'd paid off all of that. But the reception center, my dad was like, "Oh yeah, it's handled. Don't worry about it."
Wow.
And then went
That
to
is
collections.
crazy. That's a
Yeah,
fun story
but my
though.
second wedding to Justin, we only had 50 people, and I think we spent like 40 to 50 grand on that.
As I'm tallying up, I'm kind of just like, one of my friends told me, they were like, don't even make a budget. You're just going to spend what you're going to spend. And I was like, but as we're going along, I feel like I'm just passing out $1,000 bills like they're like 20s. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we've tripled our budget somehow.
I think if
Yay.
you're gonna if you get out of it under 100K, you're probably really lucky, especially the destination wedding.
That's
We're
kind of what
cheap here
I'm
in
feeling
Utah.
right now too. And we're quickly approaching that. I was like, oh God. Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good. Okay, so let's just say, kind of on the topic of reality TV, what are some of the best weddings you've seen on TV? And would you ever, I know you did your vow renewal, would you ever do a TV wedding?
Ooh.
We actually had one of the producers that did Real Housewives of Dallas, and I think, did he do Kim Kardashian's wedding? I think he did. We had him on a few weeks ago. And he was saying that he, as a producer, would absolutely never do a TV wedding as someone that is directing people at a wedding. It is just so much more a job than, a romantic event. But I will say one of my favorite weddings probably was Kim Kardashian's Chris Humphrey's wedding.
Me too.
It was pretty.
And I think it's different too, though, being like, you had mentioned even like the royal wedding of Alpine, but like even the royal wedding was live. So that wasn't like, okay, cut, redo. But I mean, even with your vow renewal, how was that? Did you feel like you had to stop several times with it being produced? And again, to the point, would you do your full wedding if you were able to on TV?
That was basically a wedding, and it was all filmed. So that's it. Whitney's a perfect person to ask because she's done it without and basically with.
Yeah,
So.
and I spent more on the vow renewal than my
Right?
actual wedding.
Did you?
Yeah. Okay, so I agree. Kim Kardashian's wedding, probably because of the flowers. I'm a sucker for flowers.
Oh, yes.
The royal wedding, though, I'm going to backtrack, then I'll answer your question. The royal wedding, though, I feel like is more like a news broadcast than it is like a reality show where there's
That's
like
true.
editors and you know what I mean? So like the royal wedding, I feel like you're watching the news. But I would never, ever do my first wedding on a reality TV show. I just think it would be so hard because you want to be in the magic of the moment and, without breaking fourth wall too much. Like everyone who's had a taste of reality, which I know you have with Steph and the Dallas ladies, like there's a lot of start and stop. Let's do that again. And even just my little kids, like trying to get down from my house to where it was like 7 times. And my son was like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, well, you need to come watch mom and dad share their vows. Like, and he's like, no, I'm pissed off now. I don't want to walk again, Mom. Everyone's staring at me. Like,
I always tell people, like,
hard.
Real Housewives parties are the worst parties because, like, they're fun on TV. But when you're there, you have Beats by Bravo, which is the world's worst
lucky.
music.
Yeah.
Yes. There's no lighting. It's like the exact opposite of what you need to plan a great party is what you do for a TV party. It's like no one's going to eat the food. No one, like, you can't do any fun lighting. You can't have a good DJ. It's like, it's all in the editing magic to get it to what it is. But it's still a fun event. Did you feel like your vow renewal was still a magical moment, even though it was, filled with some outside cameras?
Yeah, it was, because it was actually the very first scene filmed on season 1. They came in early.
Wow.
Yeah, so we filmed that about a month prior to starting the actual season.
Oh, wow.
They came in just to capture it. And I didn't have like any outside drama yet.
Yeah.
There was none of the other, only Heather Gay was there. So like there was no drama yet. So it still was magical. And they pretty much kind of just let us be for the most part. I had to work pretty hard, but my guests didn't.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
That makes
I had
sense.
to do a lot of, of the things that housewives do of going up and down the stairs 7 times. Wait, come back in and let's get that conversation one more time, that kind of thing. But for the most part, don't you think the guests were just at a party?
Yeah,
Like,
I would say out of all the parties I've been to that have been filmed, that was the best one from a guest standpoint. Yeah.
and it really was magical. And yeah, I was too naive at the time to know.
Yeah.
Connie, would you agree that Real Housewives parties kind of suck? Like, I feel like as a guest, you're there and you're like, oh, that was so much fun. And then you talk to your friend, they're like, this was the worst night of my life. And you're like, oh, I had a great time.
It's not that fun for
It's
the guests.
not.
But it's like you want to go and support your friends and be there. It's kind of fun to be a part of it. Like the vibe, like, I don't know, like it's
like, what's
exciting.
happening?
It's different. You don't get to really, be in the background on TV very often.
Yeah.
so that part's kind of fun, but really it's like, no, it's like, be quiet over there. We're doing this. Or, it's like, like you said, no music, the food, like nobody really, I don't know.
No one wants
really
to be
a
like
party.
Don't you think,
shoveling
well,
food.
she's really tainted because she recently came to one and it was so bad. Like I was like, oh my God, this is a flop. This is horrible.
Like the party
But-
was just bad?
Yeah, the part is just
Really?
like a flop.
What made it a bad party?
The people, the food,
The drama.
Okay, so let me ask you, what
but
makes
I
a
have to
good
say,
party?
This is a tip for anyone
Yes.
doing reality TV. I'm trying to say that word correctly. I feel like I throw the best parties because I figured it out. I'm like, okay, you have a place for your guests to go. Open bar, food, like your guests can go there. And then I always have fighting areas.
Yes.
So I separate the party.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, this is the filming section. This is where they'll land. And then my guests can still mingle and have fun.
Yep.
So I feel like I do throw good filmed parties because I always like strategically plan the fighting areas.
Yeah.
You
the
do
Wild
have to
Rose
become a good party
rebrand.
planner as a housewife. You do have to become a good party planner, like an expert party planner, as it's a whole different world to navigate. What would you say makes a really good party? Like, what are like the top 3 things? And because that's kind of how we're looking at our wedding reception is like, for us, this is a wedding. For other people, this is a party. So what would you say are like 3 things that make a party or could break it?
Yeah. So I think moments for your guests. So like obviously the night is about you and your love, but like the world lives on social media. If they didn't snap a picture of it, then it didn't happen. So just like having like little areas or like little moments that people can go and like capture a selfie or do a video, a reel, whatever. Like I think that's gonna give you like the longest the most bang for your buck, if you will. Do you know what I mean? Because then it'll live on
Absolutely.
forever. And then people have FOMO and be like, wow, we missed the best party of all time.
Amen.
And that's how I want them to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the DJ.
Yeah, the DJ and dancing and stuff, that part that's the party part, right? So like I feel like that's important. Like good music, it sets the tone for the rest of the night. Like I think music's a big part for me anyway.
I own a gay bar in Dallas, and so like the rules of like creating a good bar is you have to have good lighting, you have to have good music, and you have to have good drinks. And you should be able to pee pretty quickly. Those are kind of like, that's like the hidden fourth rule. It's all about how quickly you can pee.
Yeah, and everyone loves a good theme like custom cocktail for the
Yes. That is so true.
Are you doing one of those, like, I know I'm late to the game, but those like those photo things where it goes like 3D around you?
Oh, the like that circle around?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're having trouble, I think, getting our wedding quarter. I think there's like a translation issue, like explaining like we want cool photo things. They're like, oh yeah, we have photographers. And I'm like, no. I want like installations, like big dramatic, but we're trying to work through all that with like the event rental companies in Cabo, but that's my goal.
Yeah, I think decor is like where we're at.
Yeah.
You
I
recommend
might
that?
really have a collab for you. Yeah.
Ooh, I love a good collab.
It's not free, it's a collab.
Perfect. Well, I want to tell you guys, I absolutely love your podcast. Whitney, obviously you've been running at 100 miles an hour since you started this journey a few years ago, but y'all are doing such a great job. What has been your favorite part about hosting a podcast?
My favorite part is it creates time. Like I feel like everyone's so busy right now, like with a million things everyone is. It creates time that we carve out, that we get to be together and have these like conversations with people and get to learn about people and discuss different topics. Like I feel like our relationship as friends has even grown since we started it together. So that's been my favorite part.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, like it puts me back in the real world.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I get so caught up in this vacuum of drama, toxicity, like everything that is Housewives. And it's so good to like get back out and talk to real people, hear different perspectives and life lessons, a broader way of thinking. And I've really enjoyed that part because it puts me back out of like, you know, toxic housewife stuff.
That's such a good point you make. And I always had such a problem with, I felt Stephanie would get sucked into the vacuum and it feels like it is consuming your world and is all around you. And every grocery store you go into, everyone's read the article about you. And it's like, that is so not the case. My one piece of advice for you with this is just take a step back and breathe. Give yourself that moment because they absolutely do not. Like I think that, you know, the whole world of Bravo kind of feeds off of like, it keeps going and it snowballs and, you know, that's a Salt Lake City pun. But it's such a crazy, unique experience that if you can absorb it for what it is, which is, you know, at the end of the day, it's entertainment. It is a really fun experience, but I think you have done a miraculous job navigating that.
Well, thank you. And I have to like give credit to you because I wouldn't be doing a podcast if it wasn't for you.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you.
It was that podcast I did with you, Stephanie and Brandy. You're like, you should do a podcast.
Hey, and we were right.
And here you are.
So we have you guys to thank. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys so much for talking to us. Hearing all this was honestly invaluable and we so appreciate it. So thank you both so much. Where can everyone find you on social and on podcast channels?
Yeah, so it's Wild Rose Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. We have a YouTube channel as well, Wild Rose YouTube. And then I am at Whitney Wild Rose, all of my handles, and then my business, you can find my businesses on Whitney Wild Rose.
What about you, Connie?
And I'm just on Instagram at Connie.d.slc.
You should definitely check out
in the house.
You should definitely check out their YouTube just to see this room in Whitney's house. It is incredible.
Beautiful.
It is worth logging onto YouTube to see this. It's fun.
It really is.
And to see all 4 of our beautiful faces.
Exactly.
Yes.
Y'all look great.
Thank you,
Hey,
too.
Well, I can't wait to hear a follow-up on how the wedding's going. I'm so happy for
When's
both
the
of you.
date?
May 6th.
Oh, it's
So
right
we're
around the
like,
corner.
yeah.
Right around the corner.
Where can everyone find you two fabulous Mr. and Mr.?
You can follow our podcast anywhere you get your podcast. It is called The Mr. Podcast, or you can follow me on Instagram at Trey_Stewart.
And you can follow me on Instagram at Zach_Luker.
I personally had so much fun with Trey and Zach. I was sitting there the entire time thinking, like, are they going to invite us? Like, are we going to get invited?
Too. But then when they said they had to uninvite some people, I figured their guest list is already maxed out. So,
well, listen, maybe we look for a nearby hotel
and just crash the wedding.
Crash the
Should
wedding.
we crash the wedding? I think we should.
Something tells me if
We know the date now.
Yeah, we have the date.
I'm pretty sure I know where they're doing it.
Well, I'm pretty sure if we asked them and told them we want to come, they would let us come to the wedding, I would think.
Yeah. Should we invite ourselves?
Actually, that's it. Let's toss that one to the audience. Would you invite yourself to someone's wedding? DM us and let us know. We should do a poll on Instagram. So if you're listening, DM us. Would you have the courage to invite yourself to someone's wedding, or would you just crash it? Have you ever crashed a wedding?
Only once. It was on New Year's Eve, and we were looking for a party. And we were in high school, so we're driving down the street, and it was almost midnight. So we were like, gosh, what should we do? And we were driving by the stadium up at the University of Utah, and we could see at the very top of the Rice Eccles building, there was a party going on. We're like, perfect. There's a party. It's almost midnight. We can't be in the car at midnight. We park. We met some kids that pulled up next to us. We're like, follow us. We don't know these kids. We all pull up, hop out of the car, run in, get to the top, run in right before midnight, and we ran into a wedding party. It was a wedding on New Year's.
No way.
Yeah, so we accidentally crashed it. We didn't know it was a wedding until we were in it, and it was midnight. And then we had people asking us, "Oh, do you know the bride or the groom?" And we just made some stuff up, and
we actually know the aunt.
Yeah, we didn't stay too long, but they were all so nice to us. We weren't dressed up or anything. So yeah, I did crash a wedding once on accident.
I actually have crashed a few weddings with my dad. I don't know if it's something I'm proud of or not, but
People you knew?
No,
Oh.
I would whenever I'd go down to Palm Springs and visit my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So this was right after high school, kind of before I got married. I would visit my dad. He's from Banning, California, which is right outside of Palm Springs. And so we'd go to all the resorts down there.
Oh my gosh.
And my dad we would just crash weddings. And my dad is so good at what he does. Like, he's so charming and charismatic that he would end up being like best friends with like the entire wedding party.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's the magic of being a hairdresser.
For sure.
You like schmooze the women and get all in there. And then one more wedding story that just came to mind. When we were in Ireland, Justin and I were in Killarney, Ireland, in a pub, and we just became part of this family. They were having a wedding the next day, and they invited us to the wedding.
Oh, no way.
But we didn't actually go. We should have.
You should have.
Yeah.
Well, next time, if you randomly get invited, you better go.
Yes.
And I'll go. But this makes me think we should have a movie night and watch Wedding Crashers. Prep ourselves.
Done and done. All right. Again, thank you to everyone. We love you. Honestly, appreciate you so much. Couldn't do this without you. But DM us if you would crash a wedding or invite yourself. Like, should we be going to the Mr. wedding? Let us know. And don't forget,
Be you, stay wild.